deliberate violation of the arms embargo by Turkey. I wanted to know if there were any measures taken. What about the Turkish ambassador to the EU? Has he been called in? Has any message been sent on to him? It's not something just thrown out there. It's proven, there have been proven and repeated violations of the arms embargo since the Berlin conference. There have been violations by Turkish vessels escorted by the Turkish Navy to deliver weapons in violation of the international embargo. Thank you, Nicolas. I'm going to ask Peter to come up here on the stage. He's going to give our point of view, our position on Libya and the embargo. Thank you very much. We've said several times, and I think this is something that is a very unified European opinion. The embargo needs to be respected. It was imposed by the UN. All of the parties, all of the states, everybody all the players in the international field need to respect the embargo. That's why we actually called the Berlin conference. That was a subject of discussion between the foreign ministers of the European Union. The foreign ministers said that we need to take measures. We need to have instruments to enforce the respect of this embargo. We are working on that at the moment. There are discussions going on amongst member states in the Council. There are discussions in the working groups and the Political and Security Council. So the member states are discussing the most effective measures in order to ensure that we have effective instruments that will allow us to ensure the respect of the arms embargo. Nicola, you have a follow-up question, I see. Now, I understand that you're boosting surveillance. That's not the problem, however. There's a proven case that a neighbouring state of the EU is breaking the embargo. There's proof. It's not a question of surveillance. So what do we do once we have this proof? What sort of measures were taken with regard to Turkey? Because Turkey is the country. It's not just, Emmanuel Macron pointing a finger. No, it's proven. So what happens when Turkey is breaking an embargo? What kind of diplomatic measures are going to be taken? Are we going to call in the ambassador? Are there going to be sanctions? That's the question. It's not just better monitoring of the embargo. There are appropriate measures when it comes to the UN. The EU can take measures. As you've said, yes, we can level sanctions. We could call in the ambassador. In this specific case, I will not comment on the details. This is because if you see the declaration of the special representative of the UN has the appropriate forum, to discuss things, for example, with regard to this. There's the Security Council, and there should be consequences for all of the players that do not respect the embargo. What I would do is I would point to the UN to deal with that specific incident. Alain? No? Please go ahead. What I'd like to know is, do you feel that what Turkey is doing in Libya affects the security of Europe? Or do you feel it's not any of your business? Thank you very much. The situation in Libya and around Libya is a source of great worry for the European Union. And that's why we are very proud and heavily involved in all of the... we're heavily involved in trying to find a solution. That was the subject of the Berlin conference. It was discussed in the Foreign Affairs Council. So there are activities in order to express our opinion, to put our opinion across. Yes, the situation in and around Libya is extremely serious. It's a serious situation for our security, for the security of the region. There will be a number of consequences for citizens in Libya, for citizens in the neighbouring countries and in Europe as well.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Peter?
I have a few questions on Libya that concern some migration elements, but I'll try and just stick to the bit that might be relevant to you. Lauren Cook from AP. Through Operation Sophia or through Frontex or any other mechanism, does the EU also recognise that there's been a breach of the arms embargo by Turkey? And I also understand that Turkish warships are picking up migrants off the coast of Libya. Is that something you've seen, observed, and have any thoughts about? Thank you.
On the embargo, it has been reported quite many times, actually too many times, how the embargo was breached, and it's not a secret. Everyone talks about it, UN knows about it, we know about it, and that's why the EU, at least the EU, is trying to make all the possible efforts to find a way to prevent the constant stream of weaponry and military hardware into Syria, because it only fuels the conflict further. So this is what we are saying also to the partners. It needs to be stopped, because on one hand you are breaching the international law, you are disrespecting UN arms embargo. On the other hand, this has direct impact in prolonging and fueling the conflict further, and the conflict has destructive consequences on the people and on the security environment in the whole region. So that's why we actually were the ones who started to discuss, okay, let's do something with it. So we submitted, we as High Representative, to be more specific, submitted proposals to the member states. The ministers of the Foreign Affairs tasked the working groups, specifically the PSC, to come up with ideas what could be done. One of the ideas at this stage is revival or some kind of reshaping of the Operation Sophia, or whatever other operation could be done or modeled based on the experience from Sophia, in order to be able effectively enforce the respect for the UN arms embargo. We are still in the process, but the EU is really keen to find solution, because, as I said, there are dire consequences to not doing anything or letting the cases of breaches of this arms embargo just continue. On the second part, I understand you are referring to an event a few days ago when a Turkish naval ship was in the waters. That was individual national. The ship was under individual national command. So, in that respect, if they have cooperation on rescuing migrants on the sea and return them to either take them to Turkey or return them to the Libyan territorial waters, this is purely something that goes on a bilateral basis between Turkey and Libyan responsible Libyan authorities.
Thank you, Peter. David, it's also for Peter.
Oui, je vais.
I'll just ask again, do you have any questions, any proof that Turkey has actually violated the embargo? And I have a second question. Operation Sophia. Now, in the previous mandate, or the proposal of the High Representative to have a new mandate, is Sophia, once it's put back into place, if it's put back into place, will it be able to block a vessel, to block a Turkish naval vessel that is transporting armaments to Libya, given, of course, that Turkey is also a member of NATO? So the second question, at this stage, it's all hypothetical, because discussions on the models, on the design of the future operation, whether it's called Sophia or it has another name, they're currently under discussion, so it's not up to me to speculate. Now, on the first point, the UN draws up regular reports on the arms embargo and the respecting of the arms embargo. So there are reports by the UN, regular reports. It's not up to us to say whether a specific case of a specific vessel broke the arms embargo. But you do have reports coming from the UN, which is the most appropriate organization to make those judgments.
Follow-up, David.
Oui, je demande.
I am asking about the EU. You reply UN. You say, no, we're going to do everything we can, make every effort to prevent a constant stream of arms. And what I'm asking you is about the EU. And you say there's UN reports. No, what I'm asking you is, does the European Union, the High Representative, the EEAS, do they have proof, because you actually have a mission called Sophia that has aircraft over Libya, aircraft that fly every single day. Do you have proof that Turkey broke the arms embargo? That's my first question. Second question, which is not hypothetical, because I asked about the previous mandate of Sophia as well. Is Sophia, whether there be vessels or not, are they going to be able to stop Turkish vessels delivering weapons in order to respect this arms embargo, given that it has this mandate given by the UN Security Council? Thank you. David, those were very clear questions, but just I'd like to say that what Peter is doing is he's replying based on the competences of the various different institutions that could possibly be involved in measures that are in place and in the monitoring of measures in place of Libya. So, given those limits. Now, on the first question, all I can say is that we have every confidence in the UN reports and in our member state reports that are sending information on to us that have information. But what I don't want to do is to comment on the specific situation and a specific incident that you mentioned, because it's not up to me to comment on that.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Peter. Any other questions for Peter? Is it for Peter?
All right, so let's give it a try. It can be a group, a huddle.